Witnessing a fall from grace in real time is like seeing an old lady get hit by a frisbee. It looks painful, slow, and hard to watch, but you just can't look away as it happens. Suitably, the driver in question has been painfully slow, suffering mild delusions, and keeps on having falls that keep adding up. And it's now a question of just how long is left. Okay, this comparison is getting dark. Daniel Ricciardo has had what can only be described as a thoroughly disappointing self-destruction over the course of the past few years, with not only his McLaren tenure being cut short, but his Alpha Visa Rosso Bull career seeming to be destined to meet the same fate. It's starting to become a bit sad, as the Aussie is still an incredibly lovable figure, especially in the media pen. However, in a season where no rookies were given a shot in the sport despite the strong performances from the likes of Lawson and Piastri proving the potential of F2 graduates, it's starting to become undeniable that there are people who would likely make more of the opportunity in the RB car. Having secured just 1 point scoring finish in his 14 races so far with RB, as well as pressures mounting up both behind the scenes and in the media, just how much more bite does the Honey Badger have? Given the looming threat of Liam Lawson in the background, it certainly seems that the final hour in Daniel Ricciardo's career is at hand. Want to know why things have gone from bad to worse for Daniel? All signs seem to point towards his departure, but just how soon could that be? A Turn 2 incident this weekend which landed not only Daniel Ricciardo but Alex Albon in the wall really landed the Australian driver in hot water. Not only was a P11 start wasted, but a steward's summons following the collision adds yet another black mark against Ricciardo's name. While he escaped further punishment within the sport as the stewards deemed it a racing incident, though did know that if the incident happened on any other lap then things would have been different, it didn't save him from a punishing media pen appearance, where Ricciardo insisted that the race incident was merely just a matter of chaos of the sport, rather than his slow start and reluctance into the first corner putting him in a compromised position. Today is a singular moment. I don't look at today and think, oh man, this year, like when it rains it pours or whatever. I feel it's just one of those things. We know that across 24 races, it's likely that maybe I'm involved in another lap 1 incident. There's just a probability that that kind of thing happens. It obviously sucks when they do, but I don't look at it any more than today being kind of a singular incident. Of course, it would have been nice to get a race under our belt and try and show a little bit of something that I felt we were starting to show yesterday. We'll do that in China. I'm actually testing on Tuesday, so the laps that I missed today, I'll get back on Tuesday. However, the sheer amount of singular moments are adding up for Ricciardo. Spins, crashes, and poor race pace are starting to become the legacy of the 8-time race winner, who seems an absolute shadow of the man who fell backwards into the Monaco pool. While his teammate also displayed a lack of grip off the start, the hesitation into the first corner is ultimately what cost Ricciardo, as it compromised his start further, putting him in a difficult position to stay on top of his car as the medium tyres snapped into an oversteer and allowed both Albon and Stroll to continue closing on the Aussie's RB. Without looking to see if there was space, Ricciardo drifted to the right side of the circuit, which, to be fair, is a move that follows the racing line. However, on lap 1, the circumstances are always different, and making movements blind is always going to end with someone losing out or multiple people hitting the wall, as was the case at Suzuka. To add to Ricciardo's woes, it appears that the Red Bull ship has thoroughly sailed for the Aussie driver. This has all but been confirmed, with Sergio Perez announcing that his Red Bull future will be known within the month. Given how strong Perez has been so far this season outside of the Melbourne race, which looks to have been an anomaly for Red Bull as a team, it appears he has firmly planted his flag in the second Red Bull seat, with Suzuka being a real highlight for Checo, where he managed to secure P2 in qualifying by just a tenth of a second, as well as P2 in the race. He has really made a compelling argument for a contract extension with the Milton Keynes team, as unlike Ricciardo, he has managed to leave the disappointments from last season behind. It's unclear as to who will ultimately end up in the second Red Bull seat, as there is an ongoing silly season to traverse and some top talents without a drive secured for next season. However, it seems one thing is secure. It will not be Daniel Ricciardo making a return to Red Bull, as it is now a question as to whether he will survive in the sport at all. Before the race weekend, the man who has a big say in Ricciardo's future expressed utter confusion at the Aussie's lack of performance, with Helmut Marko stating that he believes something is mentally blocking Daniel's performance. Each driver sees the other's data and they have the same car. Daniel has shown in the past he is a fast driver, so it's something mental. He has a mental problem. We're all puzzled over his current form. He is generally slower than Yuki, Something never fits with him, which is surprising because things looked very good for him over winter testing, but Yuki is clearly the faster one at the moment. The question is, has Yuki become a high flyer, or is Daniel so weak? There is no objective answer after 3 races on 3 completely different circuits. It appears the RB team will attempt one final punt on Ricciardo, with the team's sporting director Alan Permain announcing that the team will be providing Ricciardo with a fresh chassis in hopes that it will somehow compel the driver towards improving. However, the sporting director didn't hide his disdain at the prospect that the new chassis will somehow improve things for Ricciardo. For me, the chassis is a big lump of carbon that we attach the suspension to, attach an engine to, and a gearbox to. It's really ever so unlikely that there are performance issues with the chassis. However, we have a new one coming through. It makes sense at all levels to give that to Daniel, not least that Yuki is super happy and comfortable with where he is. We don't have a preference on the driver. With Daniel, maybe it's good for him to just put that completely to bed, that there are any issues with the car. Permain would go on to insist that he sees no benefit to having the new chassis, with him brushing off the new chassis as being a matter of convenience. I don't see it as being a performance differentiator, and certainly not something we want to be hopping drivers in and out of. It's a happy accident we have one coming. We're not bringing a chassis because of his issues, let's be clear about that, it all fits together. There's no reason that Daniel can't drive the car like it is, in its quickest form. That's clear, and I'm pretty sure he understands that. But surely you don't just sully away a fully functional and seemingly uncompromised chassis just for the hell of it. Either the chassis needs changing for performance or for the mental fortitude of the driver. It has to be one or the other. Nobody believes for a second that it's a matter of happenstance, and RB will go through the rigmarole of changing out Daniel's chassis simply because there's another one there. Either the mattress is stained or you think it is. You don't just go through the trouble of carrying it downstairs just because you happen to have another one handy. It's understood that following the disappointing Melbourne Grand Prix, Ricciardo was handed an ultimatum by Helmut Marko: either improve in the next 2 rounds at Japan and China, or get replaced as early as May. Given another poor weekend for Ricciardo followed that conversation, and that only 1 race will occur before May in China, Daniel is now on his last life, and it is hard to foresee anything outside of a miracle keeping him in his RB seat. When he returned to the sport after a McLaren-enforced hiatus, it was the Red Bull seat he was aiming for, while Perez experienced his own crisis. However, following an era defined by bad performance and bad luck, it's now the lesser seat at RB that Ricciardo is fighting tooth and nail for. All the while, as a symptom of that bad luck, Liam Lawson is waiting in the wings, having been promised a seat somewhere in 2025 by the same man who gave Ricciardo his ultimatum, Helmut Marko. That seat is becoming more and more likely to be given before 2025 as Ricciardo continues to fall short, and anything short of a strong qualifying and race result will likely see a decision made regarding Ricciardo's future very soon. So what do you think? Are we just punching down on Daniel here? Or are we right in thinking that it seems that the Aussie's time is fast approaching its end in the sport? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching.